These guys on the end are the producers, and Warren here, third from the right, is the guy who this show is based on, and we're going to get some of that backstory. There's a real cleaner here.
I met Warren through a fellow who's a producer on our show named Jay Silverman, because Warren had helped save someone in Jay's life. And he told me this amazing story, and Jay was weeping. And like the soulful man that I am, I said, I think you're a TV series. And so we went into A&E to pitch it, and Warren that day had multiple cases that were going on. And so he had a blackberry in one hand and a something berry in the other one. And the night before, he had been in a terrible fight with someone, an addict, and he was bleeding at the knuckles. So we're pitching the show, and they couldn't stop staring at his hands. And they're watching him texting like a madman, and he's, save this person and intercept this person, and, talking on the phone and bleeding. And finally, I looked at Tom and said, yeah, that's the show.
It's not, a little ironic that this guy, who is in arguably one of the most heroic vocations that exists, saving people's lives, is completely screwed up. Where he succeeds in the workplace, he completely fails at home. To me, as an actor, that's complex. It's interesting to play, and it's a character that I've never really been given the opportunity to draw on television before.
The world that I'm involved in represents many, 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 many other families that are living with an addict. Even if they stop the drugs, if they stop the drinking, if they stop whatever their issue is, an addict is an addict is an addict is an addict. And so their behavior becomes, is driven by that.
A recovering addict is one move away from falling off the rail. And William has simply, I think in the case of choosing this new vocation, has replaced his heroin addiction with something else.
Certainly I was so very struck by the power of their connection, the power of their love, that it's so huge and it's so intense.
We always talk about whatever the circumstances of the scene are to find that love. Even in the fighting moments, we try to find it.
We did an episode last season about a young girl who was struggling with bulimia. Her esophagus had collapsed. And in the show, Benjamin had to perform an emergency trach because she wasn't breathing. And the scene was set in a bakery and all this. And we said, well, he takes a knife off the counter and he cleans it and he puts it through and he puts a pen through there. And we're going back and forth and everyone was saying, well, that's so unbelievable. He's going to perform a trach. And all of a sudden Warren goes, actually, what I did is I took a big pen and I pulled the ink out of it. I followed it down on the ground real quick. I poured some Jack Daniels over and I jammed it through her throat. The moral ambiguity of what they're doing always pays off because at the end of the day, their heart and their intentions are always in the right place.
Just the fact that we're able to tell these stories that encourage people to actually recognize addiction for what it is. It can be overwhelming sometimes because the stories, although, may seem lighthearted, some happy endings, some not happy endings, nobody was really talking about it before.
But it makes for absolutely interesting storytelling, and I think it's very telling of the people who were attracted to be in this line of work. I mean, they didn't come straight out of, stepping off the stage with their degree to come into this. They are all ex-addicts in their own ways. And so they came to this because it struck a chord. It's very personal for all of them.
My daughter Courtney was born 18 years ago, and for once I had a real feeling about another life, as opposed to thinking about myself all the time. And I made a decision at that point. I don't really think my head made the decision. I was moved that way. No matter what I had to do, these drugs weren't going to work anymore, and I needed to be there for that child. And I'm deathly afraid of drugs and alcohol. I can remember it like it was an hour ago, and I'm convinced that if I ever do it again, I probably won't make it.
We're in our second year. We're infants. We're barely toddling here, and we're crowing our great success. But I think it's because we love the show. I think we love our jobs, and we feel really blessed. Because at the end of the day, maybe somebody does feel moved, watch the episode, and pick up the phone, and maybe call that more legit version of the interventionist. Maybe they call Warren, or maybe they just get involved and stop turning a blind eye.